Back with my special guest, Michael Moore. Michael, let's turn to the existence of bin Laden in this compound. It's emerging tonight. I think the Washington Post have claims tonight that the CIA were watching bin Laden in this compound for quite some time, which is certainly a theory that you've been putting forward. What do you think about the fact that bin Laden appears to have been there for up to 5 years in this large property right next to Pakistani's military and intelligence?
Right next door to it. Right next door to their West Point. Well, again, you know, they're asking us to believe that nobody knew. I mean, I think most people would assume that the Pakistani government knew. Remember, the Pakistani government is probably our third or fourth largest recipient of our foreign aid, 1.5 billion a year, and we've been paying them a lot of money because we wanted them to find bin Laden and to stop Al-Qaeda there in Pakistan. So it wasn't in their best interest, really, for the show to close, you know, on Saturday night, you know, on Broadway. You know, they like to keep the show going. And I think the Pakistani government liked this show. Generals made a lot of money. A lot of those generals had nice vacation homes in that town that were paid for by the various bribes and funds provided by your tax dollars.
Would you,
and mine.
Michael, let me just put a point to you.
Yeah.
Would you go further, because you've hinted at this? Would you go further and say that, you know, President Obama or his intelligence advisors, are you suggesting any of them had knowledge for a considerable period of time?
I'd like to know
bin
that.
Laden was in the compound?
I'd like to know that. I think we should know that. They've admitted that they've known for some time. I'd like to know how long that time is. Over those 5 years, seriously, or was some deal cut with the Pakistanis? They would essentially keep him under house arrest. I mean, think about this. There's no bodyguards in that house. We've always heard about bin Laden and his bodyguards. They show up that night, on Sunday night, and there's not a single bodyguard. There's 2 couriers, the guys who are his essentially like his personal FedEx, but there's no bodyguards protecting him. Well, why not? Well, maybe because he's already on a Pakistani military base being protected or being watched, or maybe under house arrest. Who knows? I mean, there's any of a number of possibilities. These questions need to be asked, and we should demand these answers. Something doesn't smell right about any of this, and I think President Obama will get to the bottom of this. He's dealing with a Pentagon that has a history of not telling the truth, starting with the rescue, if you remember, of Jessica Lynch, that whole made-up mission, that whole story, then the terrible, terrible lie that they told about Pat Tillman, about his death, and the Pentagon knew they were telling this lie, and they put that lie out for a very long time. They have a history of lying. So, fortunately, we have a president who is also a lawyer and a very smart guy, and I think probably he's spending a certain amount of time right now getting to the bottom of what the truth is, what the real story is, and we will eventually know what that story is.
In terms of Afghanistan, obviously we've taken out the leader of Al-Qaeda, but the entity continues to exist in various forms around the world.
Really?
Though it may be.
Like
would you now withdraw?
Where?
Well,
I mean, really, seriously.
You don't believe that Al-Qaeda exists in any form?
I think there's a lot of people running around calling themselves Al-Qaeda. First of all, I think bin Laden is there in that house for 5 years. He's got a laptop, but they won't let him have internet. Okay, first of all, you know, somebody said he's probably the only guy in the last decade that got any work done. But what kind of work could he do? I mean, essentially, if the Pakistani government had him there under some sort of watch or house arrest or whatever it's called, you know, there haven't been events linked to him over the last few years. He has been fairly subdued, if you want to say, in terms of actual terrorist.
Do you believe Al-Qaeda? Do you believe Al-Qaeda has been dismantled?
Well, I think, listen, you know, actually, the day that Al-Qaeda was dismantled, personally, frankly, what I think, it was the day that the revolution began in Tunisia. That was the end of Al-Qaeda, and then the revolution in Egypt. Nonviolent, peaceful uprisings of people who wanted democracy and who don't want Al-Qaeda. That has done more to undo. You see, all these years, what people in the Middle East and bin Laden free? What freedom or anything did he bring to anybody there? The people on the streets of Tunisia, though, they freed their country. The people on the streets of Egypt, they freed their country. The people in Syria are going to free their country. The people in Jordan, all throughout that area, they're going to do this. They don't want al-Qaeda. They don't need al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is dead to them. So we need to just step back from this and say, bin Laden's dead. What now should we be doing with $1 trillion that shouldn't be going into unnecessary wars? Let's bring these troops home. Let's end these wars. And let's put that money toward fixing this country, our infrastructure, our education system, creating jobs, the things that we need, the real terror that people have to live with here in this country, as the person tonight that's sitting down trying to decide, should I pay my mortgage bill or should I pay the doctor bill? That in and of itself.
Well, I'll tell you what, Michael, let's take a step back ourselves just for a moment, have a quick break. I want to come back to you and take up that very point now about America, what you think about America domestically and what President Obama should be doing now to fix this country.